afternoon. My name is Franklin Mwiti. I teach at the University of Eldoret, and I will be presenting this paper on behalf of Professor Hayub Gitau. This is not a research paper, but it is a technical paper on part of the data we have gathered from sources, and we've scrutinized that to come up with this paper titled Agricultural Mechanization Status in Kenya. And this is in the focus with the machinery density and the challenges and opportunities that we have for future development. Now, a number of issues in agricultural sector have so far been achieved to a great extent. Adoption of crop varieties with even nowadays with upcoming of GMO, quality seed, and even fertilizers have really been achieved to a very great extent. However, we still lag behind in terms of the produce, in terms of the amount that we produce. And this can only be resolved through appropriate mechanization. So we are still focused on boosting this in terms of labor productivity and land productivity. When we look at the role of agricultural engineers with regard to agricultural mechanization in Kenya, our greatest role within the farms is on how we can increase selective or appropriate mechanization technologies and improve machinery density. Now, nowadays we are talking about climate change issues. This has really affected the farmers, particularly here in North Rift, our green basket. One of the happenings that has really struck farmers is the changing climate. For instance, like now it is raining when we are harvesting. Much of the trucks you see around here in North Rift are carrying maize this time. Like last week, I live here in North Rift and I work a lot with farmers through various training sessions at our outreach center in the university. And part of last week but one, it was somehow dry, and we were very busy in the fields with combines, day and night, to at least salvage the crop from the rains. This week is quite rainy, and much of the wheat has been done, but maize is still in the fields. We are still harvesting. And the good thing, the government has announced to relieve farmers from the losses that was impending by at least picking up the maize at an agreed sale price of 4,000. So for us as agricultural engineers, we must implement the adaptive research that has been done at universities, in research institutions, to come up with climate-smart mechanization technologies to help farmers within this era of climate change. Now, when we look at the situation on the ground on this graph, maize yield, if you look at the red curve, it is declining. This is data for Uasin Gishu and Trans Nzoia counties. But when you look at the cost of fuel, the cost of fertilizer, and the cost of land preparation in terms of tillage, all that is rising, except for last year, where we had some relief from the government subsidy in terms of fertilizers, and it dropped from 6,500 to 2,500. Now, this increased margins in terms of production and the output is the greatest challenge at the moment. And this is where the agricultural engineer is missing. We have to go to work with farmers, realize what the problem is. As we continue talking about tractors, as we continue talking about mechanization, the real problem with the farmers needs to be addressed, because mechanization sometimes has been swayed by the political language. But at the moment, these are the results. The cost of production is very high, and there's a declining yield. The soil scientists have done their best. They have recommended fertilizers, they have done trials, and they have given recommendations, site-specific recommendations for various regions. So this needs to be addressed through appropriate mechanization. And therefore, I've just talked about this. It is the situation on the ground. The tractors that we have, the small-scale farmers, really at 5%, the level of mechanization at 5%, and looking at this graph, the tractor density is around 3.8 tractors per 1,000 hectares. And that is projected to improve in 2029 to around 5.2, with the various organizations, and the private sector is really working on this in terms of machinery importation and the sales. Therefore, when we look at the various sources of power in the farm, we are still at 20% on draft animal power, just like Prof. and shown this. Motorized power is only that percent, and this is what we intend to increase if we have to achieve mechanization. Now, the Rift Valley region is the highest at that 8% in terms of tractors, and therefore, the role of private sector becomes very critical in terms of providing agricultural machinery. We have CMC Agriculture, they are doing a good job, John Deere and Dume East Africa, among others. Now, the other issue with mechanization is the limited access to purchase of climate-smart machinery. We have some that we have developed in Nairobi, and they are doing great work in North Rift. We've tested for the last four years on strip till engine maize, and we are around at 33 bags per acre, when conventional ones are still doing 10, 12, and even 9 to some extent. What are the opportunities then for advancing agricultural mechanization? We need tailored solutions to small-scale farmers. We need to strengthen the regulatory frameworks to ensure quality and safety of agricultural machinery within the farms and ensure that appropriate technologies are being implemented. We are happy that we have an upcoming agricultural mechanization policy, which is, I think Engineer Kanui can talk about that, for us to be able to achieve agricultural mechanization. Now, adoption of conservation practices here in North Rift is at around 27%. Now, we train farmers here in North Rift at our outreach center. Like last month, we had around 90 tractor operators and farmers. Yes, and really, conservation tillage is really picking up, especially for maize. Now, there are myths about mechanization, like job losses and so on and so forth. But we have looked at the available data, pre-mechanization and post-mechanization, and we can compare the total employment creation between farm laborers and machinery operators and compare that with the output. As I finish, we focus on agricultural mechanization in Kenya. We focus this up to 2029, and we could achieve at least 45% from the current 33% in terms of motorized power for our farms. This is one of the training sessions we normally have field days, especially in the tillage season, to train operators on basic maintenance, tractor implement optimization, and conservation tillage practices that are available. Thank you for listening.